Hello everyone, welcome to All Time Highs, and my name is Mike, and today we're going to be covering what happened for the past week. So as you can see, in the past month we've done fairly poorly in the past couple of days, and especially in the past week we've just really tumbled off a cliff, and we basically fell from 750 to a low of almost 400. So 350 billion was wiped off the market cap, and that's insane. Just for any type of pullback, that's almost 50%. And just I have some things that I wanted to share, because how I entered this market was exactly these couple of days. So I've experienced this before, and although it hurts to see your portfolio shrink in size, obviously in US dollars it decreases dramatically, but there's lessons to be learned, and it's really on these days specifically that you actually learn. So the three topics that I wanted to cover, and success, ways for success in the long term of investing, especially in a bear market, these tips are especially important. So number one, pick for the long term. What do I mean by that? So I'll just give you an analogy. If you buy something like a cell phone, it doesn't matter if it's Android or iOS, whatever, as long as you're comfortable spending that amount of money. Obviously, you do your research beforehand and you pick what you think suits you the best. So once you buy that phone, you essentially ride out that entire life of the phone, unless you're someone who's in tech and always switches their phones. But like for the average person, they buy that item and they use it, right? So in the same way, I think you should pick a cryptocurrency. It doesn't matter which crypto it is, but if you believe it's Bitcoin, Litecoin, one of those, as long as you're comfortable holding it and using it, if you can, you don't have to use it, but it has to be something you're comfortable holding, if that makes any sense. So you buy it, you hang on to it, and if it goes up, you're comfortable selling, but at the same time, if it goes down, you don't feel like you have to get rid of it and life is over. So hopefully that made sense. For me, that coin is NEO, particularly because NEO is something I believe in the longevity of. It's one of the first public Chinese coins. And because they're working with regulators, just because Chinese regulators banned exchanges and ICOs, I don't think that means it's going to be permanent. As we've seen, China has kind of reversed it previously with Bitcoin and just going back and forth. So I think there's opportunities going forward. It's definitely a market that's expanding and growing. Obviously not in the past couple of days, but I think this is a healthy correction, because in the past month we've seen dramatic growth, and that can't go on forever. Especially if you look at 3 months, it looks bad, and it definitely is bad, but we're still seeing, like, if you've joined this market anytime longer than a month ago, you're probably still up on your money. So I think a pullback is healthy. I wasn't expecting it to be this quick, and I definitely didn't think it was going to happen, because I did believe the 14K was a good entry, and I did buy some there. So it turned out to be a poor choice, but as always, if you're on the way down, there's also opportunities, which is our second point. You always want to keep one foot in the water. So what do I mean by this? You never want to have everything all in. So in poker, there are sometimes opportunities for you to do that, and it's a viable decision. But in an investing term, unless you're strictly gambling, and everyone will say, yeah, if you're in cryptocurrencies, you're obviously gambling, but I don't think that's correct. There's still ways to mitigate your risk and protect yourself, whether that's holding cash or holding Bitcoin or holding altcoins. That's up to you to judge for yourself, but I believe you should always keep one foot in the water. So you should have one on land, one on water. And why is that? If you have US dollars or fiat or Canadian dollars or whatever you trade in a time like this, cash is king. Even though Bitcoin is the reigning champion when markets are going up, cash is king on a bear market. So when things are coming down and crashing, you just pick those things up for cheap. So you just pretend it's a discount, it's a sale, it's a like 1 weekend sale. You just grab everything you can that people are trying to dump because of fear or whatever. You just pick it right up, and that's why it's so powerful to have cash. And Likewise, you don't always want to just have purely cash, because then you're only waiting for these market dips, right? That's when your cash is powerful, is during these downward movements. And while you're going up, usually Bitcoin is the best hold, because as Bitcoin rallies, and that usually increases the market cap as Bitcoin rallies. So when Bitcoin rallies, you want to have more of that so that you can pick up opportunities like altcoins and things like that. And altcoins generally do well when Bitcoin stagnates. So if we just look at Bitcoin, same if we're looking at 1 month. So Bitcoin kind of stagnated between January 3rd to January 15th, right? And between January 3rd and January 15th, sorry, wrong chart. We're supposed to be looking at this. So the market cap and dominance of Bitcoin was going down for the past month. And during that time, it was because, let's see, December 18th. So December 18th, we can see the market cap was increasing, but Bitcoin itself, it wasn't moving. So Bitcoin was stagnating and just kind of consolidating, because it just hit 20K around that time. But everything else during this time, this was like the run up of Tron, ADA, all those altcoins, it drove up from, what is this? We'll just go from the very peak, right? So 350 to, so they added $200 billion in altcoins alone. And so most of that we're losing is also altcoin growth. But obviously we're losing a lot in Bitcoin as well. But just as Bitcoin tends to not move, that's when altcoins are powerful. And that can vary, but generally that's the trend. And the trend is your friend, as a lot of people say. So I don't think it's a good idea to swim against the current. So if you know something not is 100% predictable, but if you believe there's a good chance it can happen, I don't think it's worth swimming against the current. So we're going to move on to something else. And the third one I wanted to talk about was compounding mistakes. So if you're someone that got in a couple months ago and you're down on your investment and you thought, you know what, this isn't for me, and you exited, that's all right. You made a mistake. You didn't perhaps do a full research, and you didn't analyze yourself in a way that you're comfortable with investing an amount. And personally, I did that as well. I put in perhaps too much, or as we increased in price, I didn't pull out enough, because as your value grows, perhaps you lose that comfort. So let's say you put in $10 and your $10 is now $1,000. Perhaps you're not comfortable risking $1,000. Some people think, oh, well, you only put in $10, so you're risking $10. But no, that's not true, because at any point you have the choice to leave this market with $1,000. So even though it's easy for you to lie to yourself and just say, well, I've only paid $10 to get into this market, you are actually working with $1,000. So as your money continues to grow, you kind of have to decide for yourself whether you're comfortable trading or remaining in the market with that amount of cash. So if the answer is no, you should be pulling out. And so why compounding mistakes is, if you make one mistake and you realize it, don't just not do anything about it. So for example, if you're not comfortable losing the amount of money and you could have sold here and you didn't sell, and then you decided to sell here at the very bottom, and then as today kind of starts to go back up, you're like, well, I still want in on this, and even though I lost money, I think we can make money again. I think this kind of mindset is just a poor choice, because the market is not made to give you money. It's made to take money away from the small guys, and it gives it to people who manipulate the market. And so don't kid yourself. This isn't just a regulated market. It's very wild. So you're the new kid on the block, and there's already gangs, bullies everywhere. So those whales, they decide what happens to the market. So don't believe just because you put in money in cryptocurrency and it's a new thing and you believe in it long term after your 10-minute research that this is going to happen. Because there have been people who have been here for a couple of years and they have massive amounts of cash. Well, like not cash, but cryptocurrency. And their volume can manipulate the market in an insane way that you wouldn't even believe. So don't just think because you're here to save the day and the party's getting started. That's not how it works. So you have to be real with yourself, and if you do make a mistake, learn from it quickly so that you don't make it again. So for example, I'm going to talk about a mistake I made. I'm going to open this market cap again. So for the past couple of weeks, I haven't made any movements, but from the altcoin rally, I've been kind of moving my altcoins into a Bitcoin position, which I think would have been a good move, and I did do that. But I think at the same time, I told you I was uncomfortable with the amount that I was gaining, and that amount I should have honestly just the amount I was uncomfortable like exceeding my threshold, I should have just cashed that to Canadian dollars or US dollars or whatever I'm trading with. And in hindsight, that makes sense because not only am I reducing my stress levels because I'm dealing with too much money and whatever, things like that, it also helps you in the downturn swings. So that kind of goes back to number 2, keep one foot in the water and one foot on land. I didn't have really a strong foot on land. Most of my other foot was really deep in water, so the tide kind of determines what's going to happen to the rest of me, right? If I had more footing on land, I would have had cash during this to pick up more Bitcoin. Of course, I had a little bit because I don't believe you should ever be just all in, like I said. But had I had more control, aka more cash, I would have been way more comfortable with the past couple of days. And although if you joined in the past couple of days, it has been obviously terrible, but this is just it happens in a market like this where it's young and there's not much regulation and things can change really dramatically very quickly. So we're going to look at the price of Bitcoin. My entry was during the China ban, so I paid pretty much the all-time high at that point, and I'm gonna kind of talk about how I felt during that time and what happened. So 3 months ago approximately. No, even longer than that. So yeah, time flies when you're in this space. So here was pretty much when I bought in at pretty much just under 5,000, and then it crashed to just under 3. So what I learned from this experience is don't just buy without researching, without understanding, because that's how you get burnt. Like I said, this is a market where there are bullies and there are market manipulators and whales in this space, and you have to realize that just because you think you're getting in on it and it's going to change the world, it's no longer the small community Bitcoin was 10 years ago. Now there's a lot of people with power, and these people who have money, they don't necessarily care about money anymore. It's more a power because there hasn't been regulation in the space, so they have free reign on all of this. So why wouldn't you play and make your own rules? You know what I mean? You can push people around and take their money. So, it's obviously it's not a nice thing to do, but if there are no rules and regulations, the logical play is to do exactly that. So when I joined, I basically did a little bit of research on coins, bought a couple, diversified, did all that. And then as Bitcoin crashed, it really, really hurt because those coins that I diversified into were absolutely crushing it harder than Bitcoin. So a lot of value was lost at that point. And so similarly to how this has happened with like all the popular ones, like Tron, ADA, all the ones that were in quotation marks hot, those are also kind of what happened during when I first entered. And if we look back, this is nothing, right? It's like a small blip. And honestly, that took, I think it was maybe 2 weeks to recover. Was this in July? No, this was not in July. It was in September. Trying to exclude the peak right now. There we go. So this is when I joined at the all-time high, pretty much. We crashed down. Right now it looks insignificant, but back then that was quite a lot. So, you know, if we look at today, it looks terrible, but, you know, maybe in a year or a couple months even, because we've already seen a recovery. And if you scroll through the list today, we've already seen most of these are back in green. Like I said, Tron, back at it again. So 55%, you know, all these gains. You just have to make sure you're comfortable with your positions, and you have to lock in profits. That way you're balanced. And also to keep in mind, if you make a mistake, it's okay to admit that and learn from it. Just don't make a mistake and continue doing so. And additionally, the most important, that's why I put it first, pick for the long term. Find coins you believe in. So for me, I really like these exchange coins, Kucoin shares, Binance coins. These have actual products, and these exchanges make money. So they won't just disappear. Things like Neo, they have platforms, they have ICOs being released. Whereas when I buy Bitcoin, even though, yes, in the long term, I think Bitcoin is still, in the medium term, Bitcoin is still good. In the long term, I don't see Bitcoin having utility. Sure, it can be a store of value. You can argue that. You can say it's means for exchange. Not really, because the transaction fees. Lightning, I mean, the adoption of Lightning hasn't happened quickly, so most people are still paying high fees. You just have to find coins personally you believe in. No one really can sway you and say, here, buy this. Because I've done that. I've gone onto YouTube. I've watched people's videos. I've sometimes bought coins without really doing my own due diligence. And once I buy that, you don't feel comfortable holding it. It's just like someone else's child, and you don't know what to do with it, if that makes any sense. So you have to find something you like and you can support on your own. And that way, when markets go down, like the past couple of days, obviously not at this point, but the past couple of days, when that happens in a bear market, you'll feel okay holding that coin. And even better, you'll feel powerful because you have cash set aside, so you can pick up more of your coin or whichever coins you're looking to invest in. So hope this video makes you guys feel a bit better, and hopefully the next couple of days will recover a little bit. So stay tuned. Take care and good luck, everyone.